Good evening, everyone, and welcome to BT's Fly Tying Friday. Tonight, the 14th of February, we are going to be cutting and burning and weddings. Now, what the heck does a wedding have to do with anything? Well, we'll talk about that in a second, but for right now, the weekly tip is going to have a pause in the start. We'll talk about that also in a minute. But I'm Al Beatty from Boise, Idaho, and my lovely wife off camera here is hiding, and she's joining us as well. We're both a little under the weather, so bear with us. We're kind of working by starts and jerks right now. Anyway, I was going to do, okay, weddings. We need to talk about weddings. This stuff right here, in fact, let me go here. This stuff right here is a really tough, lightweight cloth. And it's called organza, and it's used for the veils on wedding dresses. Makes some incredible cut wings with one little problem. You need a hammer and a chisel to cut the stuff. And if you use the regular cutters, well, you'll probably get several dozen out, and then your cutter will be dull or broken, of which I have both. But anyway, it's some great stuff, and we have some workarounds for you, but we'll get to that in a minute. But that's what weddings have to do with anything. But I wanted to start tonight with a look at burnt wings, and I wanted to start out with a thank you to all of you. And I also, first off, when we come back on, I'll be holding a book that we got from Tony Tomsu from River Road Creations. They're the people that manufacture, the only manufacturers that we know of for wing and body and leg and everything cutters in the U.S. at this time, or at least that I could find. Fantastic book. We really appreciated getting it from them. But I'll set that aside because we had a thank you from all of them. But the thank you is to all of you. And that's what I wanted to talk about. This is Fly Tire Magazine. You all know about it. And we are regular columnists in that magazine. And we just published our 200th tip and trick, thanks to all of you. And in fact, tip and trick number 1 in the book happens to have contributors of 3 or 4, I don't remember, and it doesn't make any difference. But the main trick came from Paul Fidelis in Port Macquarie, Australia. And anyway, my thanks to Paul and several other people, but my thanks to all of you, because we got 200 tips and tricks, and I would venture a guess that somewhere around 60% of them came from all of you. And so that's what this is all about, sharing knowledge, you coming to us, and vice versa. I'll set that aside. And let's get down to what we're really going to work on tonight. Yes, I've talked about the cutters and everything, but I wanted you to see at the bottom there, Tony Tomsu, River Road Creations. All you got to do is throw a .com on that to get to the website. And of course, you take all the capital letters out, just riverroadcreations.com will get you there. Anyway, tonight we're going to start our adventure in Australia. And it starts with a gentleman by the name of Adrian Diamond from Long Beach, New South Wales, Australia. And he sent us this tip telling us that we needed to use fingernail cutters to do wing cutting. And he even sent a YouTube video, a link to a YouTube video that showed it actually in progress. I said, well, that sounds good. I was just excited as could be. I mean, there's a wing cutter, or not a wing cutter, but a fingernail cutter on the right-hand side of that picture. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that could work in that same light. Well, let me tell you what, right now, the fingernail cutter works pretty good. All that stuff you see on the left, what is it, 2, 4, 6, 7 items, don't work worth a darn. Don't even waste your time, because I spent the better part of 3 days trying to figure out how to make them work, and it was really a wasted time. Enough said on that. But what we're going to do is we're going to bounce back to the cameras for a moment, because I wanted to show you a little bit of that uh, wing cutting with fingernail clippers. I thought that was pretty cool that we got what we had gotten from Adrian. And so I'm going to slip over here to the materials area. And what I've set aside here is my fingernail clippers. I'll just set that over at the vise. And I've got a couple of feathers. And we'll just get over here at the vise. And as you can see, I've got one feather that's been trimmed. Whoops, I dropped it. One feather that's been trimmed a certain amount. Let me get this fly out of here. It's been trimmed a bit with using a fingernail cutter. Well, it's not too bad. I thought I'd maybe try to do it on camera and see if I couldn't just thoroughly mess it up. Okay, now here's my feather back, and here's the fingernail clippers. And let's just reach right in there and we'll just cut that out there. Oh, I need to get that extra one. All right, now let's just flip this over and go to the other side. See how that works. Now, I have to admit that I don't do this the best that I could, but it's probably not going to be my first choice of things that I'm going to do going forward. And there you got a cut wing. And with a fingernail clippers. So never say you can't use the fingernail clippers. Let me tell you something though, and part of why those 7 items got set aside, one was a big cold toenail clippers. I said, boy, that'll do it. And you know what? If you cut any toenails with it, it'll be too dull to do this. So, I know that's part of why I spent a couple days trying to figure it out. But I'm going to set all that aside for a moment. So we thank Adrian for his comments, but it wasn't the fix-all for us. I had to go a little further. The next tip came from Davy Watton, who now lives in Arkansas. And these are London cutters. Well, these are actually from Benwood's, which is a fly shop in London, England. And for those of you who don't know who Davy Watton is, he is a Welshman professional fly fishing personality, as a guide, commercial fly tyer, et cetera, who emigrated from the UK to Arkansas. He lives on the White River now. He's been there for quite some time. And these are some wing cutters that were specially made in London back in the probably 60s, 80s and 90s. That would be my guess. Anyway, moving on from that, we're going to move a little bit closer to home. We started in Australia. We're now in Arkansas. And whoa, now we're moving west to Montana. And then this was in the 80s. And this is a fellow by the name of John Faust. And we talked just briefly about him last week. He is the fellow that invented and built the mechanical fish. The fish's name was Fernando. And he was used for, he had a debut in a movie called The River Runs Through It. And I think he was on screen a total of about 5 seconds. Anyway, he was a mechanical fish that would raise to a fly on command. Enough said on that. John was quite a character, though. I've got to tell you that I met John in the early 80s when I was just starting to do the fly tyings and fly show circuit, if you will. And he sat right next to me at a show in Missoula. And just to tell you how this guy is such a character, he was tying these divided upwing quill flies, and he put some special glue on them and all that kind of stuff. And he used his wing cutters on them. And he would sit them down on the table and talk with the customer for a bit, and all of a sudden he would just jump and say, "Oh my God, what's that? It's a fly lit down here in the middle of my tying area." He'd reach under the table and bring out a fly swatter and just smash the holy bejesus out of the fly he just tied. And it was kind of his stick, and it was a fun thing. But what I wanted to do is let's go back now to those wing cutters that he made. We used one last week. And in fact, if you'll go to the vice camera, Gretz, this is the one we used last week. And as you can see, it's got a little mark on the side that I put there to tell you what the shape is. And it's got kind of like a a razor blade in there, if you will, in a epoxy handle. And we'll go back over to the materials area and show you that we had all of these that we had cut previously, and it just made a nice cut divided wing, and I'd tie them together so that I could use them later as dry fly wings. It was kind of a cool thing. Well, what I wanted to do is take that concept just a little bit further, and I've already showed you that you take the feather and you push it down on there. And what I don't want to do is, I've been shaky enough today with this bug, whatever it is Gretchen and I are fiddling with. I don't want to end up jamming that sharp edge into my hand or something like that. So what I'm going to do is show you some materials and the results. Now, last week, we had a guinea feather that I cut. And so I turned it into a fly. I thought that looked very nice. And all that is a guinea feather with that wing cutter I showed you just now. Pretty cool. Or at least that's what I thought. Set that aside. Let me reach over here and get another one. Now this one right here we go. Here we started out with church window feathers from a pheasant. And we ended up with this kind of a wing. I thought that looked kind of cool. Anyhow, so we'll set that aside. Get back over here. We'll grab another one. Now, this is one that's also done with a kind of the breast feather of the pheasant, if I remember right. And you can see how they're kind of indented just a little bit there. And if you lay your cutters in there just right, you can see how I've cut that, and it kind of V's out a nice looking wing that can go onto a caddis pattern. Thought that was kind of cool itself. Well, the last one is I got this brainstorm the one night, and I just about got up out of bed in the middle of the night and came and tried it out. But then I said, no, wait and see. Well, what I have here is an aftershaft feather that I ran through the wing cutter so that I could make a caddisy merger. I don't think I've ever done that before. If it hadn't been for a bad nightmare.
So you can see from the top.
What's that?
Tilt it so I can see it from the top.
Oh, from the top, yeah, okay.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Gretchen. Thanks for reminding me. Anyway, that's just a caddisy merger. But let's see, what else do I have? Oh, I got one other thing. Jim Ferguson. We talked about using that cutter on starling. If you want an exercise in frustration, Jim, I'll let you give it a try. I ain't doing it anymore. I spent the better part of 2 hours trying to do it, and I finally took these two, took a pair of scissors and whacked them to the shape that I wanted them, because I sure couldn't get anything to line up and stay there with the press down wing cutter. So I'll just say that one is a failure and let it go at that. Anyhow, as we move forward, also during the 80s, we did wing burners. And we're not going to burn any tonight, but I want to show you what they are. And there's a wing burner. These are caddis. And you put the material inside there, pinch it together, and burn away the excess that you don't want. And what's left inside is a set of wings. Well, it's really kind of a cool idea. But if you like branding day at the ranch or smelling scorched feathers, then do that in the house. If you don't, pick a nice spring day to do it outside, okay? You'll be a lot happier. So we've done some burning of stuff. In fact, Gretchen did it for me today. And there's a mayfly wing burner that she used with the wetting material. And then she trimmed around the edge, because one of the things when you burn away this excess wetting organza material, it's nylon. And if you put a flame to it, it melts. So then you have to very carefully trim around the edge to get rid of the burnt melted mono. but this is a tough, tough wing. Lasts forever, and it's much, much lighter than anything else I've ever used. But it's also, as you know, kind of a pain to use. So now before we go on into anything else, let me check my slides here. Yeah, that was that. Okay, well, then just the closing one. And we already talked about the smoky wing burners and branding day at the ranch and all that. So anyhow, any questions on burners or cutters before we go on? Because it's almost unlimited, the things that you can cut and turn into stuff, be it wings or whatever. Then tonight's tip. I'm going to do that before I tie the flies. At the Boise show, I was sitting next to a gentleman from Utah, really a fantastic fly tyer. Name is Marty Howard. And I picked up something from him. He was using this device to sharpen his scissors. And I said, "Oh, Marty, those are really cool." And he told me all about them, and he was pretty thrilled with them. And he showed me a pair of dull scissors and then sharpened them. And I said, "Oh, man, Marty, this is great." And so I went and bought one. And in fact, let me grab it here real quick. There it is. It's a Fiskars sharpening device for scissors. Now, I don't know if I've done something wrong, but I'll guarantee you, when you use whisk clips, and if you want to mess them up, put your whisk clips in there like that, and then just pinch and pull them out, and your whisk clips will be shot. Telling you that, and I couldn't believe it on the first one. And no, this is a brand new pair. You're not. I ruined 3 of them, proving to myself that it wasn't working. You're going to try it. Gretchen's trying it off camera right now. Did you have any luck?
No, they're not made for, they're made for something like this.
For a regular scissors, I think that really has a
They're
little
kind
bit.
of like my sewing, the ones I use on my sewing, only it's smaller. So what you do is you put this in here and then you close them. And it's supposed to, that does not work.
Not working very good, Gretchen.
No, it isn't.
So all I
Can you
can
hold
tell
that up? Can you hold that up again so we can see it?
Yeah.
The one you bought that works. I'm going to take a picture of it.
It does not work for us. It worked for Marty really well, but I'm not going to recommend it. If you use clips like we do, you might have a problem.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, you can hold that. Now there was one other thing I wanted to talk about on the tip. Barbless hooks. Recently I have gotten, I can't tell you how many email requests from people wanting to know where they can get hooks and all this kind of stuff. Will you sell me some hooks? And no, I'm not going to count hooks out for anybody, so that's not going to happen. But I did run across something that might be of interest to all of you, and that is over in Amazon. Let me get this scissors out of here and these wing burners out of the way. I got this box of fish hooks, and it's inside. You've got the size 10, 12, 14, and 16 of dry fly, and the same thing of scud. You get 240 of them for 20 bucks. I don't know if that's a good price or a bad price, because I haven't bought anything but hooks bulk from a factory for so long. I don't know what the prices are today. It looked like a pretty good thing, though, and I tested the hooks, and they seem to be made out of really good stuff. So I'm not going to try to tell you that you got to get this exact set, because there was dozens of others there. All you got to do is go on Amazon and type in a search engine, and you'll be in business. But setting all that aside, I'm getting ready now. I'm going to slip into tying a couple of patterns. And the first pattern is a fun one, and it's the CW parachutes. Well, it's a cut wing parachute. I mean, that's what the CW stands for. It's pretty straightforward. You're looking at a dry fly hook, thread, whatever you want. We're going to use moose or brush from Paul in Australia, or whatever you like, you can have for a tail. The parachute post is going to be tail waist, and the wings are then going to be mounted around that tail waist, and the body will be dubbing of choice, And I'm going to do grizzly hackle, but it can be whatever you want. And we've got moose, and I'll set some of this other stuff aside. It's no longer needed. And we got dubbing, thread, hackle, and winging materials. So I'll just get that going. And I think I'll mount a hook in the vise now. Nice dry fly hook. And I'll reach over to the materials area and grab my thread, and I'll just bring that over here, and we'll get a thread base, and I'll just start that probably about 1/3 back from the hook eye and wrap to the end of the shank and back, most of the way. But I stopped just a little bit shy of reaching my destination here at the other end, and that's because the material I'm going to tie on has got some bulk to it. Now I'm going to the materials, and I'm going to get some moose body hair for the tail. And what I'm going to do is clean all the trash out of it like I always do, and I'm going to stop on my way back to the vise at the trash bin to clean all that out. I'll get my hair stacker, and we'll even the tips on that. Good. I'll take the hair out of the stacker, pointing in the direction that it's going to go on the hook. That makes it a lot easier to keep those hair fibers evenly aligned if I do that. Now I took a couple of the shorties out, and I want a fairly sparse tail, but I want to keep plenty of the butt ends here so to strengthen my parachute post. So I'll have a pretty good bundle there. I'll wrap back part way, and then I'm going to stop and just trim out just a few of those moose fibers so that I get a taper to my body, and I also get a more sparse tail, which was my goal. A sparser tail, but a more robust bundle of hair up here, which will be my wing post. And I'll just wrap in front of that. Now, before I go any further, do we have any questions out there? Guess not.
So far.
And then I will go back to the vise, and I'm going to strengthen this hair for the post, just like I do all parachutes, using the concrete and rebar analogy. Right now I'm pouring concrete, which is going around and around the bundle. And now I'm at the top of the bundle. I'm going to go straight down to the hook shank and anchor it there. The straight up and down is rebar. The round and around is concrete. And a couple of applications of that, and it's just very, very sturdy. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is trim that off and reach over here and get one of these sets of wings that Gretchen made up for me. Thank you, dear. And what I'm going to do is take that wing, and I've got a problem here. And this is really important how you do this. You notice my thread's hanging in front of the post. It needs to be behind the post, or it's going to make it not impossible. It's just going to make it difficult. And you'll see why here in just a second. I'm just going to slip this up and around the post. And it's just going to sit there now. And notice with the thread behind, if I just come forward like this, I anchored that on the hook. It's not totally anchored, but had I done it the other way, I would have to do some kind of a hand over hand thing because, well, no, I'd be running into the thread and that would cause me a problem. Anyway, let me go back to this, get this up and around here. And what I'm going to do now is crisscross between here. And now I'm going to anchor the wings to the post. Now, I don't really need to put any rebar in. I'm going to, but you don't need to because you've already strengthened that post with concrete and rebar from a previous application. So let me just take these wings now and just spread them apart. And I think I'll crisscross between just to see what happens. It's been so long since I tied one of these, I don't remember if I had to crisscross between them or not. Now we'll pull that forward there. Yeah, that's looking pretty decent. Good, good. Okay. Now I'm going to get ready and put on my dubbing. Let's get over here to the materials area and I'll locate that dubbing. Here we go. Got my feathers. Okay, good. We'll start by getting some of that dubbing out of the package. And put some dubbing wax. Whoops, sorry about hitting the camera there. Is it still lined up?
Okay.
Okay, good. I need to grease up that thread just a bit with wax. And just touch my bundle of dubbing to the thread. And you can see that just grabs the amount of dubbing that I need for the job. And I'll just go to the back. Already. Now I'm going to reach over to the materials area again. And this, I don't remember what I think I had grizzly for this hackle, so I'm just going to grab this grizzly. Put that brown back so I can get it later. And I'll just come here and strip out my stem. And at the same time, I'm going to continue dubbing forward to the front of the hook with while I'm tying the hackle on. I mean, the thread's still there, so you can do that. And I'm going to dub again to the back of the hook. One of the things I like to do is to put a rib on most of my dry flies. I think it gives them some segmentation, which the natural has. And I just rib back forward with my thread. And on a dry fly, that's all you need. You don't need any wire or tinsel or anything like that. All you're trying to do is provide segmentation. And I wait until I reach the wing post. I'm going to pull my hackle up and attach it to the wing post. And by the way, that hackle stem is another piece of rebar. Anyway, so here I am now. I'm ready to wrap my hackle. I'll just start with a turn at the top, working my way down as I go towards the body. I'm going to bring my thread up and around and anchor that feather at the post. 2 turns. And let me see now, I'll keep that tilted right there. And I'm going to come around with 2 more turns under that feather. One of the most important parts of tying flies and doing a good job of it is waste management. And if you don't put those 2 turns under, this piece of feather will stick down. And then when you reach in with your scissors and cut it off, you're going to have that stuff sticking out there like that right there. Or a stub. But as it is now, the stub is still going to be there, and so are the fibers, but they're hidden. And that's all waste management is camouflaging the fact you got it. All right, well, there's my wings. And now I'm just going to go ahead and finish the fly with a half hitch and a whip finish using the same tool. And we'll just finish that off and cut the excess. And what do we have here? Let's take a look. Well, the wings will often pinch up a little bit, That's what that did right there. And you know what? Oh, I like the way that turned out right there. Yep, perfect. I kind of use my fingernail to push them into place, and there they are. On to the next fly. Let's go. Now this one has got a really original name. It's the CW Caddis. I mean, come on, folks. It's also going to be a cut wing. It's a dry fly hook. By the way, I also tie this fly with scud hooks. And when you do that, I usually put a shorter body on it, obviously, and then where the hook curves down, I put some kind of a hot spot application of thread with UV glue on it, which will be like an egg sac on a caddis or whatever. And sometimes that works better than one without. It's just you never know, but it's always good to have in your bag of tricks. Anyway, we're going to use black thread, hare's ear body dubbing. We're going to have a rib. The wing is going to be cut and colored, and thanks to Gretchen, she colored this and cut it and trimmed it for me. The hackle is going to be brown and the head is thread. And we're getting ready now to go back and let's remove the mayfly and let's just grab a hook here and we'll put it in the vise. Now these are so doggone easy. Don't blink, folks. If you think an elk hair caddis is easy, this is even easier yet. Because first off, we're going to be working with this right here. Now this is a wing, two ways to do it. And Gretchen took this one and split them apart so they could go around the hook if you wanted to, and cinch into place. Now I'm not going to use that because there's another way to use that caddis wing burner. And this is what we're going to actually use for our wing tonight. I want you to notice that it's been colored with felt tip marker, a little bit of splotches on that, and it's going to be divided and tinted over the body. Just so you know kind of the direction that we're going. Let me grab a hook. It's already here in the vise, and let's put down a thread base. I'm going to start again about 1/3 back on the hook shank with a jam knot wrap back over, wrapping to the end of the shank. Now it's up to you whether you want to put hackle over the body area on this one or not. I'm not going to, but if you wanted to make this a full body length hackle like an elk hair caddis, you'll see when the wing goes on, it could go on very easily in that configuration. I'm going to just put a few turns of hackle at the front, but it works either way. It's just put the dubbing wax on the thread. And we'll twist our dubbing into place. In this particular situation, I'm using clockwise wraps if you're in a position looking from the top of the hook down. And I'm going to start my dubbing at the front of the hook. And I'm going to work my way towards the back of the hook, making things just slightly bigger towards the back. Now I'm going to rib forward. And now let me grab my wing. Now, of course, you weren't here to see Gretchen having to build this wing. It had to be colored and cut and trimmed up and all that kind of stuff. So she had to do all that ahead of time. So this is going very fast when some of the work had been pre-done. But the last thing we wanted to do was fiddle around doing all this on camera. Anyway, right here you can see that tinted wing looks pretty good out over the body. Now let me reach back over to my materials area and set the moose out of the side, and I'll get out my brown hackle. And one of the things I'm going to do is I want you to notice that I've got that stripped both sides of the stem. I don't want that. What I want to do, in fact, is you see how it's trimmed more on one side than the other. This side, the top side, will actually be turned this way and will be touching the hook. And that helps place a really neat, clean hackle application if I start with the first turn of hackle only having fibers on one side of the stem. All right, so what I'll do is I'll tie that on. And we'll trim the waist. So they don't slip. I got a bad spot there, so I'm going to do a quick half hitch just to keep my thread from slipping. And now I'm going to bring it up, make my first turn, and I want you to notice that that's stripped. Let me move that over just a bit. I want that tighter on the wing than that. There we go. So notice that that just lays in there perfect now that that first turn is a single barb turn. Working our way forward to the hook eye. And I'll just wrap that on around, and I just used a Beattys tie wrap tie off, which gives us an opportunity for a nice, small, delicate head, which is our goal on all the flies that we tie, but specifically on the dry flies. And you get that in the way you tie off the hackle. And you'll have to look online. We've got if you'll go to the FFI website, Music Library, Alan Gretchen Beatty, and in our tips and tricks section of our library page, you will find the tie wrap system. And it's a multi-part system of which one is tying off and making a nice clean head like you see right there online right now. See, that's makes a pretty good looking head. Questions from all of you?
Questions so far?
Wow.
Al, have you fished that fly, that caddis? Have
Would
you
I
fished,
what?
have you fished that caddis fly?
That is a concept fly. Almost everything we tie on these Zoom sessions is a concept fly. It's an idea. You adjust the size, the colors, and all that kind of type of stuff. So that particular configuration, no, I have not. I have fished a fly just like it in a slightly different size and color on the Yellowstone. As an example, well, no, let me turn the story back just a little bit. I was doing a presentation last night. I was telling the guys about a trip that I made to the Bighorn River with some friends. But anyway, the fish at that time of the year that we went to the Bighorn River, the fish over there would be really keyed in on a really small black caddisfly, and it sometimes was a size 20, but most of the time they were all about a size 18. And that particular tie right there, and another one with a full body hackle, depends, some days one worked better than the other, was absolute killer in black body hackle, and I put on a slate gray wing. So that's just one option of colors, but look at the bugs in your part of the world. As an example,
How did you color that gray wing?
the gray, I use a gray felt tip marker.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, folks, it's time for sharing on BT's Fly Tying Friday. And in past weeks, we've talked about this camera right here that was introduced to us by David Buckner. And I noticed that David's on tonight. And David, is there anything that you can comment about that camera, having used it for a length of time?
I went back and viewed your video from last week, Alan. I think you covered it. The real difference in this guy's, and it was mentioned, is the button to focus. So you press the button, it focuses one time. So you don't have to worry about it getting in and out of focus. But it gives you a great tire's eye view of the fly. Another interesting thing that it will do, you've got a couple of switches on the top to to change the orientation of the picture on the computer and then on your screen, and you can actually flip it to where it is a true viewer's eye look at the fly. So it
Oh,
looks like
wow.
you're actually looking down, tying the fly versus tying it backwards or, another orientation.
Sure.
Works great.
One question for you, David.
Certainly.
A fellow told me that he would switch from one camera to another, this one being a main camera, and switch it to a secondary camera. Would the focus change in that environment, or did you have any trouble with the focus changing?
I haven't changed cameras while I'm using it, Al. I'm only using the base camera functionality on Windows, and
Got it.
and you can, I'm just toggling from the laptop camera to the display camera.
Gotcha.
Hey,
Okay. Well, that's yet to be told in the story that we'll talk about that at a future time, but we're not going to mess with it now. But for now, what I want to do is go to a wide shot of everybody. Okay, spotlight for everyone. There you go, Evelyn. Love it. Again, that's better than what I did.
Oh, I don't know about that. And then here's the other one.
And that is the cut wing caddis. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Thompson, wing former. It comes with 3 different, they're called combs, and you put a feather in there on the base, and the spring clamp flips over and holds it down. And then you push one of the combs into the feather, and then you glue the edges and let it set, and it makes sets of wings, small, medium, and large.
Boy, now that we'll have to get you to do a demonstration of that sometime. Okay, Bill?
Okay, this is something I have used for 47 years. It's called an ease lap diamond. It's got a nice sharp little tip. I just got done working on Zolligan scissors like this. I've sharpened about every kind of knife you can sharpen, from serrated on down, boning knives, everything. 47 years, still the same thing. It's spiral cut like this. So you got your grooves go this way. So if you go straight across like this, you just get a very, very fine hone. One heck of a good thing to sharpen things with.
Yeah, and I was using different materials. The one that the head of the fly is at right now, that's that earthra that they use. It's pretty thick, and it's usually used on a mayfly pattern wing, and it floats. It's almost like it's Arnie Gidlow has a caddis or a mayfly pattern. Well, it's a caddis pattern that he uses with that type of foam. And then there's one in there that it's hard to see. Well, the black, this one I used because it's got a caddis, but there's on the Metolius River, there is a black caddis that is extremely small. Now, this is a size 16 pattern. And then this one down here, that's got, you can see through it, but it's got some iridescence through it. So it's all got 5 different materials to make the different wings on that caddis cutter.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jim. Appreciate it.
You get these photo books, right? The photo album things.
Yeah.
You tear the pieces out, and you wind up with the similar material to the crystal organza. And if you fold it in half and cut it at an angle, you wind up with the same measurement with the for the back of the fly, or for the back of the wing. Sorry.
Good information, Paul. Thank you. That's it for this week, folks. Thanks so much for joining us. For now, it's a wrap. Until next time, take care.